You can feel the madness.
Simpson with it for the lead. Colorado wins.
Yale riding the march magic high once again.
Kornheiser looking to go to the cup. He does. We are tied.
Outside Jones, 3.
It's the D1 and Done pod. After dark, it's day 2. We are wrapping up the round of 64 in March Madness. And as always, it's the D1 and Done pod, currently presented by no one. We're up for sponsorships. Hey, literally, if you Venmo me $2, you can be a sponsor of the D1 and Done pod. That's that simple, and we are that big of sellouts. I promise you, if you do it, we will let you sponsor the show. Make sure you follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We got a YouTube page as well. You can email us. It's d1anddonepod@gmail.com. You can also send us a message on our SpeakPipe. It is speakpipe.com/d1anddonepod. We will hear from a viewer of the show coming up tonight from our SpeakPipe. We'll have a new viewer that'll tap in for us. I am Robbie Donahoe. With me, as always, Dusty Mills and Nick Mills, coming off of a tough Thursday night. But guys, Friday night, we are back. The Boilermakers getting a big win. And one of my favorite parts about when Purdue gets a win, especially against a 16 seed, is, I don't know if you can hear that sound. It's the sound of silence, because no one's saying a damn thing, because Purdue actually did what they were supposed to do. And now all the jokes and nonsense can shut up. And now Purdue actually can get down to playing some basketball. But I will start with this, just talking for myself and talking out loud with you guys. The Purdue game was maybe a little bit closer than I anticipated early on, but I was very impressed with how Purdue finished in the second half. I'd like to get your guys' take on it from watching it, because I think initially it was, my first thought going into that game was, this is going to feel a lot like that Virginia Gardner-Webb game from a couple years ago, where Gardner-Webb got out to a lead, and then Virginia had to rally in the second half. Purdue kind of held the lead for most of the game. I thought Grambling actually played a fairly decent game, especially in the first half, and then Purdue kind of ran away with it. But Nick, I'll start with you, kind of asking you, what did you think of Purdue tonight getting it done against Grambling?
Real quick, Robbie, it's funny you mentioned Virginia and Gardner-Webb. People do not remember, for people who don't know, also Virginia lost to 60 UMC, whatever. In 2019, they won Natty. They were down 36-30 at halftime to Gardner-Webb.
Correct.
The 60 next year.
Which
is like shocking to think about.
I believe they were down double digits.
Points.
I think they were down double digits in that first half too, if I'm not mistaken, which is even crazier to think about.
I believe you're correct. If it wasn't double digits, it definitely felt like daunting. But Robbie, I guess the takeaway for Purdue is, Grambling State actually, threw a punch for most of the first half. Like, they brought it.
Well, so literally and figuratively, yes, I would say that, because that's how physical they were with Zach Edey. They basically employed the Jordan rules on Zach Edey in the first half, which was just, I get it, but at the same time, good gosh, guys.
Right. So, yeah, I guess the good news is Purdue, they did not let, the past teams get to them. It was a little bit, not a scare, is not the right word, but, again, Grambling State was not backing down. I believe that 31-27 the first half, something like that late, and Purdue pulled away. So, simply, they took care of business. They did not let, like I said, past teams get to them. So, good job, Robbie.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you. Zach Edey finishing with a merely, just a quiet 30 points and 21 rebounds. That's right, 30 points, 21 rebounds, and he didn't play for the last 5 minutes of the game or something like that, so he could have had a lot more. Dusty, I know you had a chance to kind of dabble in a lot of the games today. What is your takeaway from Purdue as a 1 seed getting it done tonight over the Grambling State Tigers?
They did what was expected, which I know you're very happy about. It's funny because you talked about not really controlling the game like you would want them to. Everyone who listens to this podcast has heard, my wife, who does not watch college basketball whatsoever. So we were at a friend's house tonight. We were watching the end of the Auburn and Florida games, which we'll get into later. And she was talking about how close the games were. And she was surprised by it. And we were telling her, people get really, or players get really, I'm trying to think of the right phrase, because the phrase I said I can't say on this podcast. Tense. Thank you, Nick.
Tense, nervous, clenched booty holes, all those kinds of
Thank
things.
you.
Yeah.
Clenched booty holes was actually the phrase, was it a different?
On certain websites, I get tense too. I feel it.
I was just telling like, these players get really, tough situations. So, I mean, even for Purdue to win that game by, what was the final?
78 to 50. We did
yeah.
somehow, thanks to the walk-on god Carson Barrett, who hit that three. Purdue covered the 27, which is
searching my friend
incredible.
Dustin McLaughlin, who had Grambling State plus 27.
Yeah.
But it really is when you move on. I mean, but then you look at this, and as we're doing this live right now, Houston's up 51-21, which is amazing. But yeah, no, I just think that Purdue. I was watching that game while at dinner. I never thought I was in doubt at any point. I know all the jokes about the one against the 16 is a big thing, but they just controlled it like they were supposed to, and that's why they're a team that I truly think can win the national championship.
I completely agree, and they'll play the winner of TCU Utah State currently towards the end of the first half. The Aggies have a 37-35 lead. I think both those teams are going to give Purdue a big run for their money, and the Boilermakers will have to show up. And let me be frank, this is not me bragging about beating a 16 seed, but I will say, for how as much as I mean, yes and no.
Move on.
Yeah, and it's. We've had a lot of hatred.
Not just 16 seed, but 16 seed who threw a punt. Did not lay down.
Yeah,
who actually came out firing. You responded.
Agreed.
I think that's something to be proud of.
Right. It's nice to be able to throw it back in the haters' faces and the jokesters and the people that just come in your mentions and say stupid stuff, and the random people that I haven't talked to in 3 years that'll text me and say, "I'm so sorry, I pretty lost." I'm like, I haven't talked to you in years. Why are you texting me? Yes, that actually happens. But
sorry, Robbie, I should have texted you.
It's okay, Nick. So I do want to walk back my comments ever so slightly about Seth Davis, because after the game today, after Purdue's win over Grambling, Seth actually had a really nice little mention about Purdue after the game. It was almost as if he just completely forgot that he trashed Purdue talking about FDU and Grambling the night before. But I will bring this up because I want to play it, because I actually thought what Seth said was very kind and considerate.
Yeah, Will Chamberlain famously said, "No one roots for Goliath."
Very true.
Let me tell you something. I'm rooting for this kid, and I'm rooting for this coach, and I'm rooting for this program. I'm rooting for this fan base, which hasn't seen a Purdue team make the Final Four since 1980, put up the third 30-20 game in NCAA tournament history in 50 years. I know I spend way too much time on social media and Twitter and the like, but the number of people, and including in the media, frankly, who just like to take shots at him. Oh, he's just tall. He gets the benefit of the doubt from the refs. They could call a foul on him every single play. He gets the you-know-what beat out of him all the time. He never retaliates. He never loses his composure. He never makes it about him. He went for 30 and 21 tonight, and Andy Katz couldn't get more than 6 words out of him because he wants a title, and I wouldn't want to be in his way.
Not only that, all this talk about his lack of stretch, he's a 50% three-point shooter for his career. He's 1 for 2. Yeah.
So I love the comment there from Adam Lefko at the end, the studio host from Turner Sports. He says people say Zach Edey can't step out and shoot the three. He's 1 for 2 from in his career from three, so he's a 50% 3-point shooter, which I thought was perfect to kind of cut through the tension. But as Seth mentioned, the hatred towards Purdue just doesn't really make very much sense to me. It never will. But at the same time, Dusty, you put it perfectly a couple weeks ago as an Astros fan. Embrace the hate. It is part of it right now. Now Purdue's got 5 more games to win to really shut up the haters and claim that national championship.
Fun. It's so much fun to just. I mean, my favorite T-shirt that I have. I mean, I wore it. Remember when we did the podcast probably 3 or 4 weeks ago? I have an Astros shirt that just has the Houston Astros H and just says "hate us."
Mm-hmm.
Like just yeah. If you are mad, that's fine. Just go win. I mean,
exactly.
That's all that matters.
Yeah, that quiets them pretty quickly.
That can win 5 more games.
Yeah. So while we're talking about wins on my side of the field, shout out to Alabama and Charleston, just absolutely torching the scoreboard tonight. Remember, I gave you the over total points at 172.5. You guys want to tell me what they got to tonight in total points?
I believe I know that's 200, right?
215.
It's 109.96. So
215 points. It went the over hit by 43
Robbie,
points.
Rob, are you bad at math?
Is it what?
It's 205.
106.99?
It's 109.96.
Hold on, 109.90. Wait, they didn't count the last basket. So
It's still 205.
It's 202. Sorry. Well, okay. So
Robbie, you said 215.
I'm a liberal arts major, okay? I didn't have to go through math, all right? English was important for me. So obviously, I can't do math. So I thought it was 205. It was 202. Regardless, the over I'm aware, Nick. Hey, how did Kentucky do last night? Do you want me to go there?
Oh, okay. No.
Do you want me to go there? No.
That was very unnecessary. I was literally mowing the lawn today and was just thinking about Reed Shepherd not scoring. that was very
that's my only shot. That's the only shot I get.
Reed Shepherd have in common?
What's that?
Neither one of us can score.
It's true.
I'm more real quick while you're talking about your over, Robbie. I'm more amazed that Charleston scored 62 points in the second half and lost by double digits.
How does that happen? They scored 62 points in the second half and still lost by 16. I mean, I'm curious how Alabama is going to do in the next round because, as I mentioned, I gave you that stat, I think, earlier this week where teams that are top 10 offensive efficiency and outside of the top 100 defensive efficiency have not made the Sweet 16 in over 20 years. And Alabama fits that mold. They're going to play either St. Mary's or Grand Canyon in the next round, and those two teams play, vastly different styles. I think if it ends up being St. Mary's, I think Alabama's in massive trouble because
I hope Bama just drops like 110 every single game just wins the tournament.
I mean, they are such a fun team to watch. And speaking of Alabama, I want to parlay this into talking about the SEC. And Dusty, I know you're very disappointed in how the SEC has done so far in this tournament. 3-5 overall. Tennessee, Alabama, and Texas A&M, the three teams that won in the SEC. But going 3-5 in the round of 64 from the Southeastern Conference, that's massively disappointing. And basically what made it even worse was the fact that in about 5 minutes we saw Auburn lose by 2 to Yale and Florida lose on a buzzer beater to Colorado. And it was a rough night for the SEC overall.
Okay, so Florida doesn't necessarily surprise me.
Yeah.
Their D1 and Donna group, ESPN group actually had them losing this game.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Okay, peaks like basically at the end of this tournament. But the Auburn, I'm floored by. So really, it's Auburn and Kentucky that I just do not understand. Kentucky, we already did all that stuff. We don't have to talk about it again. But Auburn, they had 9-point leads 3 different times in the second half.
Yeah.
And I understand how like a Bruce Pearl team who's always so good defensively doesn't just like shut a team down like Yale, where they don't have a lot of scoring.
It was odd, but so the guy that I shouted out last week, John Polakidis, he was the guy that basically took him to the end and made those crazy shots.
On fire.
Yeah, and that's what he did against Brown. That's the reason why Yale is in this position is basically because of him. He was 6-9 for 3, finished with 28 points, had a massive game. Very nice. But the shocking part, and we mentioned it when we made our on our bracket pod earlier this week. Auburn was 11-0 coming into this game in first round games in their last 11 times. This is their first round loss in their last 12 chances, which is to lose the way they did. Just didn't make any sense. And I go back to the fact that what the heck is KD Johnson doing in so many freaking moments? That dude is just he is chaos inside of a tornado, inside of a waterfall. He is all over the place. And I think he's the best and worst moments of this team. And tonight, he just had some crazy plays that I think really hurt Auburn down the stretch.
Robbie, did you see a play today? It was probably like 5 minutes left where he was dribbling across half court, and he just missed. He was dribbling, and he just missed the ball.
Yeah, as he was dribbling. Yes, I know exactly which one you're talking about. I've never seen that happen. Never.
His hand missed the ball while dribbling. It blew my mind, and he immediately got the foul. It it was kind of like a very fitting way to end Katie Johnson's career, including the game winner at the end, which had a -% chance of going in. I think
it looked pretty ugly. I don't know if this was kind of a symbol of kind of where the game was going, but I don't know if you saw the ejection from Chad Baker-Mazara when he threw that elbow. Now, Auburn was in control throughout no matter what, but not having him down the stretch I think definitely hurt. Janai Broom did everything he possibly could. He had 24 and 13. And they got really good contributions. Denver Jones had 17 points. He was 3 of 5 from 3. It was not like Auburn didn't
missed
necessarily.
A big free throw at the end.
He did. And Auburn didn't necessarily play poorly, but I think it was a combination of kind of just turnovers towards the end, not making shots, and Yale making the big plays down the stretch when they really needed them.
Yeah, it's kind of simply put, right? It's kind of the cousin of Kentucky yesterday. Like one team looked more relaxed, the other team looked tense, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of how it looked. And Yale, those nerds up in New Haven, they looked relaxed. I hate to say it. And
they sure did.
Dusty made that point, like, Yale was kind of tight the whole way, and I believe Auburn had a 10-point lead with 7 minutes left.
Something like that, yeah.
Finally righted the wave, and then Yale just came back firing. And yeah, the SEC's had a kind of rough go of it today on this whole weekend.
Yeah, Auburn led 68-58 with 7:35 to go, and then so they got outscored 20 to 8 in the last 7:35, and they lose to Yale. So, and that's Dusty. I don't know if this is the bigger issue here. I think you got to see it in Nashville. I think we all saw it as well. The SEC was a very physical conference this year, and it was. I mean, teams just went at it in the post and got after it on both ends of the floor. I don't know if it's a bigger issue here, but I haven't seen that physicality really come out from the SEC teams in this tournament, and I'm not really quite sure why.
There's probably some bias in this answer. It could just be the officiating, honestly.
Okay.
I mean, you get different officials, obviously, like everyone, every conference has their own officials, but it could be different where you think you play a certain way. You're not going to make it with Big 12. You play different than Big 12, then all of a sudden you're playing against something that I think, let's just stay with Yale, and you can't do certain things that you're allowed to do.
Right.
So that could be it, or it could just be that the SEC was overrated, which sucks.
Can I jump in on this real quick?
Sure, yeah.
3 and 5. So there's 3 wins: Tennessee, Alabama, and A&M blowouts, right?
Yeah.
The only 2 that lost is Mississippi State and someone else.
South Carolina got blown out too.
That's fine. We're complete.
Yeah.
There's 3 50-50s. Auburn, Kentucky, and
Florida. Florida's 50-52. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're 3 and 5, and what? Kentucky and Auburn are 2 of your best 3 teams. So again, I'm sure it's not good going 3-5, but
they could easily be 6 and 2.
Yeah,
it's not. I don't think it's some referendum. I think just this happens sometimes. If it was 1 and 7, I think it's a completely different conversation. I think 3 and 5, a couple bounces go your way. It is what it is. I think that's the story.
I agree. I think it's overblown. And the fact that Tennessee looked impressive against an outmanned St. Peter's team, Alabama looked really good against a Charleston team that could keep up with them, and Texas A&M, my gosh, they are going to make life hell on Houston coming up on Sunday. Hell.
It's like we said on Michigan State. This is the preseason team we expected them.
Yeah,
they showed it today.
I mean, A&M, I don't know if you watched that game, but Nebraska got off to a hot start. Like Tominaga was making everything. Yeah, I mean, it was like Nebraska was impressive. And then all of a sudden, the switch flipped, and Wade Taylor goes off for 25. Manny Obaseki had 22, and Tyrese Radford had 20. Those are those 3 guards that, I don't know if you remember, like 2 weeks ago, those 3 guards outscored Ole Miss on their own when they played that game in Oxford. And once again, they went for a crazy total tonight against Nebraska, a team that was very hot, that shot 45% from the field, had 2 guys score over 20. I mean, A&M was mightily impressive tonight. And as I mentioned, if I'm Houston, and Houston's having no issues with Longwood right now, I'm very concerned going into that game because A&M is going to bring it. Because another thing, 14 offensive rebounds, like they crushed Nebraska on the glass. But also, this is another thing I want to mention and bring up too before we move on to our next thing. Coming into this tournament, Texas A&M was by far the worst three-point shooting team in the tournament in the field of 68. The worst. It does not make any sense to me how all of a sudden they have figured out that they can shoot threes, because they were 13 for 23 tonight, 56%. They were outstanding in the SEC tournament, where it just like they could not miss a thing against Florida.
Against Kentucky, they're 11-26.
11-26 against Kentucky. They made 8 threes against Florida. In that Ole Miss game, once I bring it up here real quick, the Ole Miss game, they were only 5 for 21. But just in the last three games, this team that is, the data has shown that they are a poor, dare I say, horrible three-point shooting team. And all of a sudden it's clicked and they can't miss a thing. Like, they are hot right now.
It's a cliche, right? Get hot at the right time.
Sure.
And
yeah.
And for the people for the next round, for even like casual college basketball fans, Jamal Shedd versus Wade Taylor in the next round is, I'm excited right now for it.
It's going to be great.
Good.
I mean, I think, so we have had, I believe in the last 12 years, we've had at least one seed not make it to the Sweet 16. If there was any of the 4 1 seeds right now that I would be most concerned about, it would be Houston playing against this Texas A&M team. Like, the Aggies are going to bring it. So that's going to be a great matchup. Do want to mention real quick before we jump into other games, the games we missed on Thursday night. We missed Drake just absolutely crapping the bed against Washington State. And then, my gosh, Buckyball and Samford got the shaft in a late game call on the block that if they would have gotten the block, they're coming back the other way with a 5-on-4, down 1 with about 12 seconds left. So tough break for Samford. Kansas, maybe this is the Kansas theory that our good pal Nick was bringing up. I was surprised how well Kansas played. Nick Timberlake looked like a completely different player than he has in the past 3 months, so maybe the Jayhawks are starting to figure it out. But wanted to bring those up as well. Nick, I want to go to you. What's your other big result or surprise from day 2 of March Madness?
I just have 2 quick ones, kind of like the story of Thursday. We know we talk about on Twitter, like there's no scoring on Thursday. Today, points galore, right?
Yeah,
jeez. Colorado game, A&M Nebraska game, the Alabama game. Such as a quick one. Scoring was up today. I think the other one we have to address as a pod right now is the Mountain West.
Oh,
tough showing so far. Okay, San Jose State got the win. By the way, this is another thing. I think UAB was probably, of all the 12 seeds, the one people predicted to win the least. I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, and they probably should have won, honestly.
And they probably should have won.
They played really well. So before we jump into too much on the Mountain West,
that's all we'll say. Yeah,
I want to toss it over to our Mountain West correspondent, Jake Donnelly, who has a little bit from our speak pipe about what he believes he wants us to address with the Mountain West.
Hey there, guys. It's my favorite Mills, the official Mountain West correspondent, chiming in with a burning question. I'm just wondering, why is the Mountain West turning into a disaster zone every March? Can't wait to hear your take on this, and keep up the great work on the podcast. And go Gators.
So I didn't know Jake was Australian, first off. But secondly, so Jake's question is, why has the Mountain West become such a disaster come March Madness time? And it's an excellent question because...
Great question.
I mean, again, this has been happening every single year. If it wasn't for San Diego State making the Final Four last year in the national championship game, I mean, this narrative would perpetuate because the Mountain West, I mean, they were awful today. New Mexico looked horrific against Clemson, and it made no sense.
Carl State scored 11 points the first half on Thursday night.
So bad. I mean, so I guess, Dusty, what do you think is the problem in the Mountain West right now?
Well, first off, I'd like to say that I just got a notification I hit 20,000 steps for the day. Make sure all of you do the same.
Congratulations.
Robbie, no wonder he's a James Harden fan. He loves steps.
That was more worth it, yes.
Every game win streak, by the way. I mean, you could, I mean, this is an excuse, but you could blame the low seeding. Let's just start there.
Yeah, that's part of it.
They're playing games they shouldn't play. I don't know. I mean, to me, it's a single elimination tournament.
Nevada was one of those 50-50 games. Nevada probably should have won that one.
Yeah.
San Diego State, they got the job done. Obviously, New Mexico was very, very poor and did not play well. Colorado State, I think, was at a disadvantage from the start. That was just a bad matchup, in my opinion. Just didn't really. That one was never really going to work out. So, I mean, throw those in. Yeah.
If you get up at halftime right now.
Yeah, they're up at half, and Boise State was right there with Colorado, a team that looked incredible last night that we haven't even talked about much yet. So So
honestly,
is it just happens? Is it just by chance that they're just doing poorly, or is it a bigger issue here?
I don't think it's a bigger issue.
Okay,
I think it's dumb luck. It's the same thing we just talked about with the SEC. It's we could break it down and. No different than what we say the SEC is
3 and 5. Mountain West, I think is 2.
He's one in.
If you count the first 4 win, 2 and 5, I think.
That's the point. Yeah.
So,
I still think the Mountain West is very, very good. And just watching these teams, New Mexico was the biggest.
I was shocked by that. I was shocked at how poorly they played.
From the jump,
yeah,
too.
it was from the start. So I'll mention Mashburn and House were 5 for 25 from the field.
Yep, I was literally looking at the box score right now. I was going to say that.
And they didn't have any other guy step up and play well. JT Toppin, 6 points, 10 rebounds. They did not get their normal output from other people. Clemson played very well. I thought Clemson defensively was outstanding. So I don't know if it was just a bad matchup or the fact that Rick Pitino was there and giving a lot of pressure to his son. I don't know what it was, but it was just it was a weird game just from start to finish.
Well, that was the team too. They got so hot in the end and ran through the Mountain West tournament. I mean, that was a team I told you guys we were doing our bracket thing that I was almost going to put in the Final Four.
Yeah, they were. A lot of people liked them in the Sweet 16. Yeah, very surprising how that ended.
Yeah, we should apologize to anyone who was big on New Mexico because we are all high on them. So we apologize.
Well,
to anyone from the bracket,
and I apologize as well, just across the board for any other picks that I got wrong because there have been a couple. BYU is one of my bad ones, and again, there's another one. BYU, Mountain West. I mean, Duquesne just looked excellent against them, and only won by a couple, but still, the Dukes looked very good.
But speaking of the Mountain West, thank you, Jake Donnelly, UNLV grad himself.
Running Rebels should have been in the tournament, by the way. They should have been in the big dance the way they ended the season.
Disagree. Virginia deserved to be in, Robbie.
Robbie, I have a fun fact for you, too.
Oh, love fun facts.
Jake Donnelly was in college with Brandon Mills, Dusty Mills, and Jake Mills.
Same college.
Oh.
Yeah, like college with all three of us.
Really?
He was on the same college campus with all three.
Very interesting. Okay. Nice. I like that. By the way, I should mention Jaden Ledee had 32 points in that game over UAB. He almost had half of San Diego State's points. He's the reason why they won. UAB had that big run towards the end, and they were hitting some big shots. But Jaden Ledee's the reason why they won that game. KJ Simpson, buzzer beater that beats Florida. Colorado shot 63% from the field. They could not. It did. They could not miss. I do though want to mention. We now have, we have truly, it's the return of the big men between DJ Horn and our guy from Colorado, the transfer from TCU, that's starting to figure things out a little bit. That's Eddie Lampkin. Those two dudes have just been ballers. And also the Drake big guy, whose name I'm spacing right now, he was great against Washington State. Do we have the return of the big, thick man inside in college basketball?
Does Edie count as well? Do we count him?
He's 7'4", 300, so I guess, yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. Robbie. We're back.
We're back, baby.
We're back.
I love letting the big fellas eat inside. And, man, it was fun watching TJ Horn last night, even though I had Texas Tech in the Final Four. And then today, Lampkin was just a monster inside. against Florida. He was great. Other game I want to mention. Yeah, go ahead, Dusty.
You did have Texas Tech in the Final Four?
Well, because remember when I switched out, so I had Kentucky going into Wednesday night. I had Kentucky, and then I was like, okay, well, if I'm picking, I can't put Kentucky in because of that Sweet 16 stat I found, so I need to find someone else, and I can't pick another 1 seed because I already had 3 1 seeds in the Final Four. So like, hey, you know what? Texas Tech, maybe they go on a run, they play good defense. Pop Isaac's good player.
Wait, your mindset? How did we not text about this? Your mindset was I couldn't pick Kentucky, and so I'm putting effing Texas Tech.
I did. So I wasn't picking Marquette. I'm not picking Marquette.
Robbie, I believe in Texas Tech too. Don't you worry.
Okay. I mean, I wasn't going to pick Duke, and I couldn't pick Houston, and I legitimately I think at one point on my Tuesday bracket I had Texas A&M in the Final Four, and I was like, there's no way that they can continue to make this run.
I'm sorry, listeners. We're usually more cohesive than this. I just got floored by that statement. I was.
Don't hate on Grant McCaskey, okay?
I am right now. That's the poor pick I've heard from anyone.
Okay.
I'll give you $500. You tell me what school he came from, Dusty. Don't hate on my guy.
Noblesville, Indiana.
Damn it, you got it correct.
Can we switch to Marquette real quick? I want to talk about them because they were down 43-36 at the half.
Never doubt.
I mean, so remember, this is the first year we have not had a 2 seed lose in the first round in four tournaments. And there was a stretch there where it was looking like Western Kentucky might do this. And then all of a sudden it became the Cam Jones show, and that dude just could not be stopped. He was making everything. Do you guys trust Marquette, or are we still on the Shaka's going to find a way to have this team stub their toe against Colorado coming up on Sunday?
I love Tyler Kolek and Cam Jones, and that's all I'm going to say. I want to believe, but yeah.
You don't sound very confident.
They're fine. I mean, Kentucky's out on their side. They'll go Elite Eight, I hope.
I'm writing NC State to the Elite Eight now.
I'll tell you, NC State looked great against Texas Tech. And I thought the 5 games in 5 days were going to slow them down, but, man, they looked awesome. So maybe they keep this thing rolling. Nick, I also got to throw you under the bus. Colgate.
Oh my gosh,
Colgate had no chance.
And we can kind of tie them with Vermont too.
Yeah.
It's amazing how those two schools continuously, credit to them, they win their conferences year in, year out, and they just can never do anything in the tournament.
I will mention Vermont at least got that game to single digits late in the second half. I think they got it down to 6 and just could not make a 3. So they were in that game, and the scoreline looks a lot better. But your point still stands. Yes, Vermont hasn't won a tournament game since they beat Syracuse in the 2004 tournament, I believe. And then Colgate has never won a tournament game, I think, in recent memory. So all of that thrown into it, yeah.
Nor does it feel like they ever get close.
No.
It feels like they get boat race every year. So, yeah, credit to Baylor. Me and Dusty are making the jokes like it was nice being a 3 seed. Just come out and from the jump, they smoked them. So, credit to Baylor and Scott Drew. And, yeah, that's Colgate and Vermont. Figure it out. That's all I got to say. Go Crest.
I agree. And then last thing we'll talk about, and then we'll quickly mention some of the games that are going on right now that will end probably by the time you're listening to this. UConn looked like a wagon. And, I mean, gosh, I know it's Stetson, but still, like Stetson's a 22-win team. I don't care if they came out the Atlantic Sun. They're still a 20-win team. UConn made them look terrible in the first half. 52-19 was the halftime lead. 5 guys scored in double figures for the Huskies. They look like an absolute monster right now. There's no other way to say it. Like, if you pick them to win the national championship, you got to be feeling really good after that first performance, even if it was against a 16 seed.
Nick and I were talking about this during the Florida Atlantic game because, as listeners know, that Nick has a, his heart is with Florida Atlantic. It's been with them forever. Florida Atlantic could beat UConn. Northwestern has no freaking chance. So
yeah, I don't think so.
Bettors out there. UConn. I'm going to guess the spread is 9.5. I could be even lowballing that. I have no idea.
Honestly, it could be lowballing. I will say, and I mentioned it on this. I mentioned on our bracket pod. UConn plays a ton of drop coverage and pick and rolls, And if there is one guy who loves when you drop on pick and rolls, it's Boo Buie. So I will at least I'll at least throw that out there.
It needs to be a Kimba type performance from Boo Buie.
It's going to have to be, yeah.
Their one route.
Yeah, he's going to need to go for 35 if they want to have a chance.
But that's their only. I'm with Dusty. I don't see any other remotely chance for Northwestern.
Yeah,
I think the only way that UConn does not get to the Final Four now, I mean, I think they have to play Illinois, and it's got to be Shannon that takes them out.
Yeah.
I don't see anyone in that region. I mean, Iowa State's a good defensive team, but I don't see who else in that region could take them out.
I agree with you. I think Ladine, the San Diego State, could be just a little weird matchup for them. But I agree, it is theirs to lose for sure on that.
Yeah.
I agree on the San Diego State pick, partially because you'll remember, didn't they play Alabama last year, and Alabama was the number 1 overall seed, and San Diego State brought it to them? I mean, this is a completely different situation, but San Diego State, yeah. So San Diego State gets up for the big games, and that's going to be a massive game. They got to get past Yale first, but UConn, as we mentioned before, does not have an easy road whatsoever. But Nick, I want to end it with you. I know it has been a tough stretch these last 2 days, but you're an adopted Florida Atlantic fan, and I just want you to kind of talk about just how much that this team meant to you, seeing them make that run. It was tough watching them lose that game today. I don't think they played particularly well, but they were in it at the end, and it kind of sucks that it had to end that way against Northwestern.
Yeah, so just very, very quick backstory. Basically, me, a buddy, and I became FAU fans in 6th grade. Okay, so, and FAU was always bad when we were growing up, obviously, because FAU. So the fact they have made the tournament back-to-back years in Final Four is beyond my dreams, imaginably, okay? So start there. So shout out to Justin for everything he did. But this today was just the whole, the whole picture of the season, right?
Yeah.
It was just slightly disappointing. They had so much promise and hope coming in. The whole team came back. They moved up to the American Conference. Dusty May came back. And they didn't have that same juice and fire,
Right.
And for people who didn't watch, they had 12 turnovers the first half. They had 16 by the other 16 in the second half. Turnovers, that is.
They had 21 for the game. 21
Yeah,
turnovers.
21.
John L. Davis had 9 turnovers.
9. And again, he was awesome the first. He kept them alive the first half.
Yeah.
He did the exact opposite the second half. The one I was looking for is microcosm of their season. It just, you were always looking for more. Again, it's so cool I get to see them playing back-to-back tournaments, but I mean, Dustin's watching with me like, I cannot believe it went like this. That they, after all the promise last year, they lose to a Northwestern team the first round with a Northwestern team down 2 starters who are out for the season.
Right.
And Northwestern's a better team. They blew it at the end. And for Dusty May, whoever gets him, I love Dusty May. But again, the shine has to wear off a little bit, right? Again, everyone comes back from a Final Four team in the 8th best conference in basketball, something like that. And they came out of the first round. It's just, again, overall,
it's a
FAU
bummer.
person.
It's a bummer because there's just this.
Simplest way to put it.
They were so much fun to watch last year in that tournament run, and they just even this year, just such a fun team to watch. They had so much joy when they played, especially when they won. They have so many likable guys. I mean, it sucks that it had to end this way.
But again, it was kind of they had so many weird losses throughout the season.
Yeah.
This is kind of what it was. I mean, Florida off coast, Bryant, they lost to Temple in the turn. They had 3 quad 3 and quad 4 losses combined. It's just, it was just a weird year. And all in all, though, I guess I can't complain. Fun 2 years.
Very
just
much
sucks
so.
that in this way. I just will love having a chance at UConn.
So as we are wrapping up here, I don't know if you're watching the James Madison Wisconsin game, but James Madison just had a chance to basically put the game away. They botched a layup, and Chucky Hepburn just came down and hit a 3 with 2:30 to go. So it was just a 5-point swing so it could have been, I think, 79 to 62. Now it's 77 to 65, I believe, with 2:30 to go. Wisconsin just called a timeout. So by the time you are listening to this, that game will be over. But Dusty, remember, you got the plus 5.5 on James Madison.
I was gonna say, can I get the lock on that?
You want to lock it in? Like, are we basically giving you this dub right now?
I don't know. I'm nervous.
I'll do it if you want me to. You need a win. I'm playing the lock sound for you. Plus 5.5 for Dusty. Good call. And James Madison trying to finish off a 12-5 upset.
I'm going to say, the only thing I'm going to say about, speaking of Dusty, watching that game of Knicks today, and I've watched probably, I would say, 10 Florida Atlantic games this year. He did see, and maybe this is just knowing the rumors going on, and maybe I was overanalyzing it. He did seem kind of checked out. So,
they had 3 fouls on Northwestern's final possession and did not use any of them, which was insane.
That could be me overanalyzing, just watching a coach, but it just looked like we'll see. We'll see what happens this week with the coaching.
Yeah. I think there's something to that. It looks like that Louisville is getting prepared to make an announcement coming up probably Saturday at some point. Rick Bozich tweeted out a picture of them lining up chairs in an assembly room.
By the way, more importantly, real quick, Grand Canyon's up 1.5 right now.
Grand Canyon has the lead on St. Mary's at halftime.
Actually, Robbie, I have good authority. The coach they're announcing is John Calipari. That's going to be a new coach.
Can you imagine? John Calipari leaving Kentucky for Louisville? Oh my God!
Speaking of, when you asked me if you had any last question or last statements, I do have something I want to say.
Okay.
And maybe Nick's gonna rip me for this. We can talk in, one-on-one. I'm not done with Cal.
Okay.
Ooh.
I still have his back.
I will confirm you did not say and actually utter the exact words "I'm done with Calipari" or "I'm out on Calipari" last night on After Dark. You did not explicitly say that, so I will give you the benefit of the doubt on that.
No, I will. The day that I actually feel I will say it last night was pretty close, but I love Calipari and I still want him as Kentucky coach.
No, I don't think I'm not going to rip you. I think this is a legit conversation. I think on both sides.
We'll talk about that in the offseason.
Very much so. Let me give you a real quick rundown on Saturday's round of 32 games. Dayton, Arizona has the early window and has the entire floor to themselves in Salt Lake City. They got a 12:45 p.m. Eastern game. These are Eastern times, by the way, on CBS. Gonzaga, Kansas will be 3:15 p.m. CBS, followed by Michigan State, North Carolina, 5:30 p.m. CBS. Then the late window, you got a couple games that you can bounce between. Washington State, Iowa State at 6:10. Oakland, NC State at 7:10. Texas, Tennessee will be very fascinating. That's an 8 p.m. tip. Duquesne, Illinois at 8:40. And then Oregon, Creighton, 9:40 p.m. Underlying storyline in that game, Dana Altman coaching against his former team. Remember, he used to be the Creighton head coach before he took the job at Oregon. Ultimately, that gets really tasty really quick. That's going to be a fascinating game with how Oregon's defense is going to be able to play against Kalkbrenner, Shireman, and all those shooters from Creighton. So it's a great slate. Do you guys have a game on that schedule that you're really looking forward to?
I mean, mine would be Gonzaga, Kansas. I mean, I know McCullough is out, but
yeah,
that and then, I mean, just for S and giggles, Oakland, NC State. I mean, let's just see what happens. So, I mean, tomorrow's going to be fun. This is when it starts to get real.
Yeah.
This is where, like, the Kentucky upset is annoying because this is when the real good matchups happen. I mean, Texas, Tennessee is a great deal.
Yeah,
so,
I'm fascinated by Texas, Tennessee. That's a great game. I am shocked that North Carolina is only a 3.5-point favorite on Michigan State. That seems very low. I know it's Michigan State in March, but, man, that seems low to me.
Did I send you, Robbie? I know I'm talking out loud about the tweet that I saw today about 1 seeds not being favored more than 4 points in the second round.
No, I did not see that.
Okay, I'm going to find this. So sorry, podcast listeners. So basically, I'm going to make up the numbers. I think I'm correct. So since 1990, I think there's been 9 1 seeds that have been favored by less than 5 points in the second round. 7 of the 9 lost. And the only one that won, I believe, was in 1994-95. I believe it was Oregon, actually.
Wow.
So point
What a
being that.
stat, jeez.
Oh no, it was Missouri in 1994.
Thank you, Nick. So there you go, 94.
Dang.
Yeah. So North Carolina's in trouble.
Wow. That's, well, where can North Carolina go to put some more money on themselves to win so they can get that number back up?
Hard-headed Anderson, Indiana right now.
That's possible. All right. A great After Dark day 2. The first 2 days of March Madness have been fantastic. The kind of the mid to late window from today was excellent. I mean, the Auburn-Yale game was incredible. The Colorado-Florida game was nuts. So we had a lot of great games and great results. So we are looking forward to the round of 32. We'll be back for After Dark coming up Saturday night. Probably will get us in as Oregon and Creighton is in the process of finishing up. We'll talk a little bit more about the end of the games coming up Friday night as well, and then also preview Sunday's action, one of those games being Purdue. They will be in the round of 32, and we'll find out who they play.
And Robbie will be there.
And I will be there. I'll have boots on the ground. Didn't get a per diem from the PR department, unfortunately, so going to have to find a way to weasel my way in to get some money to make that happen. So anyway, regardless, thanks for listening. Thanks for being a part of the pod. Make sure you follow us wherever you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. For Nick Mills, Dusty Mills, I'm Robbie Donahoe. Thanks for tuning in to After Dark on the D1 and Done pod, and we'll see you coming up on Saturday night.